Hey guys, welcome back to another Rest, Eat, Move podcast. It's Matt solo, going to bring you kind of in the house at the grocery store. Today's topic is going to be my grocery list. What's kind of the staples when we go to the grocery store? What do we have in our pantry? What do we have in our fridge? This is a requested topic from one of our followers, and I think it's an important topic. And I'm going to just give you a disclaimer. What I talk about today is not about copying it right to the T. The point is to kind of give you some ideas, some foundations, some pillars, and then you fill in some of those gaps that are more specific with your needs, with your desires, with the foods you like, with how you can balance it. I have 3 kids, so I'm going to talk about feeding a family. Maybe you don't have any kids, or maybe it's just you. So those things will change this grocery list. I'm going to talk about macaroni and cheese. If you're not having kids at home, maybe macaroni and cheese isn't something that you think about or maybe need on the grocery list. But maybe you do have kids, and we're not going to feed our kids alfalfa sprouts and nuts and seeds all day. So we're going to have some variety. We're going to have some options. And today is about how do we go shopping and do it on Target. As always, our podcast is brought to you by Rhone.com. It's a great partner. The mental health piece with their mission is, to me, so important, so powerful. Check them out. Rhone.com, OTL-20 for 20% off. So as you think about your week, your day, your grocery list, food is a big deal. And when you don't have food in the house that's healthy or you look forward to, I think that's where we can maybe make some mistakes or consume some food that maybe is not going to help us feel our best, or we might feel guilty afterwards. Maybe we order Grubhub or go out to eat and get something that maybe isn't really what we intended for, but we didn't have any other options. So I like to think about my grocery list, what I put in my house, as the things that are always going to be in there so that I can fall back on these habits, on these ideas, so that I can eat my best for the most part. Thinking about the 80-20 rule, I'm not going to eat perfect. My grocery list isn't going to be perfect. But if my pantry and my refrigerator is stocked with foods that are, let's just call it 70 to 80% healthy, I'm probably going to eat pretty healthy. Now, if I go to the grocery store, and I'm just going to go off topic for a second, maybe I go to Costco and I'm buying bags of chips and big bulk items of cheese and all these things that maybe sound like, sure, that's a great deal or a discount, but I don't really need it. I don't need 50, gummy bear packages for my kids in the house at all times because they're going to eat those things first. So we want to make sure that we're buying the groceries that are going to set us up for success. And that's at the same time, buying foods that we enjoy and maybe our kids like, that we're not having to be perfect. I remember as a kid, my father driving a Frito-Lay truck, we always had that variety pack of chips. It was something we liked in our lunch boxes. And over the years, we've upgraded chips. But that was always something fun, enjoyable to look forward to. And so you want food to also be fun, enjoyable, exciting, not just about fueling the body. So I'm going to take you through the grocery store, and this is kind of how I shop at the grocery store, whether you want to start with the meat or the dairy or whatever section. But I always like to start with fruit. And fruit to me is always something. So my wife, if she's running to the store, what do you need? I always tell her I need fruit, bananas, oranges, apples. These are always going to be things that I'm going through regularly. These aren't going to last. These are things I'm going to have to buy each week. But I need to have these available, so if I'm on the go or if I'm looking for them when I'm looking for a quick snack, they're an option. So let's start with fruit. I always am going to buy bananas, apples, and oranges. So I try to go organic with the apples. If you're thinking, okay, out of anything, what do I want to go organic? The Dirty Dozen is kind of where I start with the organic, but specifically apples are always going to be organic, local if possible. And if for whatever reason there's not organic local apples that look good, we just want to consume an apple. Bananas, I don't really necessarily care if they're organic. I prefer to have maybe a slightly greener banana when I buy it. so that I can enjoy a banana that's not overly brown or, you know, soft. Once my bananas go soft or brown or I'm ready to throw them away, then I peel them, I put them in a bag, and I freeze them, and that's one of my go-to smoothies. And then oranges. So I'm always in my house, I always have bananas, apples, and oranges. From a fruit standpoint, these are sometimes I buy. Just depends on how I feel or what we're doing or how we're cooking or are we traveling or are they going to last. I love mangoes. So there's a couple different varieties of mangoes, but I always like to buy mangoes. I love the dried mangoes, but fresh mangoes, to me, there's nothing better. I slice them, I peel it, and I actually sprinkle cacao nibs on it as a nice little snack. Pineapple. I love pineapple, and if I don't like to cut the pineapple, you know, you could maybe buy it pre-cut, but it's so easy to cut. I juice it. I like to cut it. It lasts for quite a while in the refrigerator. I think one of the tips is you pull one of the leaves off the top, and if it comes out pretty easily, it's a good pineapple to buy. Organic blueberries, don't always have them, so I'm not always buying them. That's one thing at Costco, that they have really good, inexpensive organic berries. So it could be blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. But I like to buy those in season when they look good. I'm not always buying them. I love to buy organic, local blueberries in Michigan when they're ripe, and I actually freeze those in the freezer. Watermelon, melons, those types of things when they're in season, when it's maybe something I'm planning to cut or cook. But fruits are a big deal and very important. I always, if you come into my house, you're going to always see fruit, because I'm going to take that on the go. I'm going to have it as a snack. I'm going to try to get my kids to have one piece of fruit every day. One of the best things we can put in our body. And they taste good, and when you're eating really fruit on a regular basis, I think it can solve some of those sweet tooths. Okay, let's go to vegetables. And even, vegetables and avocados, technically a fruit, tomatoes are fruit. But from a veggie standpoint, a couple staples. I always like green onions. It goes with many different recipes. They don't last very long, but I always try to get green onions, red onions, any kind of onions. If you don't like onions, obviously don't buy onions. I always like to have staple of celery, carrots. I think those are good snacks. They're easy and versatile to cook with. Those are some staples I always have. And then I like to buy salad packs. So they make these pre-mixed salad packs. They make like a sesame teriyaki. I like that flavor, like an Oriental salad. And then like a Santa Fe, West Santa Fe, something a little bit more exciting. And then I wouldn't say Caesar dressing or Caesar salad's the healthiest, but I like to maybe sometimes buy a Caesar salad mix, kind of like that yellow area of the food target, where if I know I'm going to have pretty clean meal, so a salad's a pretty clean meal, I'm going to maybe indulge a little bit with some flavor, maybe with that Caesar salad kit, maybe put chicken breast or some type of steak on it. And those are some staple options that are easy, available, in almost every grocery store. And then sometimes, depending on what I cook, I love mushrooms, so I'm usually buying mushrooms, but I'm not going to buy mushrooms if I don't have it in my mind of what recipe is going to use those mushrooms, because they don't last very long. I love buying, teriyaki or shiitake type of mushrooms if I'm trying to spruce up a dish, just a little bit different variety. Yams, sweet potato. These are things you can buy, last quite a while. You can make sweet potato fries, mashed sweet potatoes, baked sweet potatoes, maybe even some soup. It's a very versatile, very good for boosting serotonin, gut health, a healthy starchy carbohydrate. And then I'm not a huge fan of always cooking potatoes, even though I love potatoes. So maybe it's going to be fingerling potatoes. Maybe you can make those saute, or even you mash them after you cook them a little bit, and then they kind of crisp up. Red skin potatoes, you can either bake these or boil them. Again, any type of potato is going to be a really healthy starch. I'm usually, if you listen to my dad has a potato probably 5 days a week. He loves potatoes. I like potatoes. I can kind of get sick of potatoes, so maybe 2 to 3 times a week, some type of potato option. Spinach, again, what am I cooking? Baby spinach is easy to have. Even can be a salad. Bok choy, I love bok choy. I love like Oriental dishes and Asian-inspired dishes, and bok choy to me is one of the healthiest greens. It's high in calcium. Kale, peppers, these are some vegetables that I always have on hand. And then I love making guacamole, so avocados. My middle daughter, Hadley, loves guacamole, and she doesn't like a lot of vegetables. So I'm basing on what they like to eat. I'm thinking about how do I get some of these nutrients in their diet that they don't fight against. So that's kind of fruits and vegetables. Those are kind of some staples. Not anything crazy new, but thinking about, okay, what are your 5 go-to recipes? That's kind of how I'm basing some of these items throughout the day, and I'll get to those 5 go-tos. And then as we're going through the grocery store, maybe we get to the meat section. I love to have ground chicken. You can freeze the ground chicken. I make these chicken lettuce wraps. It's a staple that I love. You make maybe some rice, some teriyaki sauce. You put that on a either some type of bib lettuce or some type of cup lettuce, and that's kind of like your lettuce wrap. I like hanger steak, flank steak, some of these steaks that you can marinate. So you marinate them overnight or throughout the day, and you get home, you throw them on the grill. It takes little time, very delicious, very flavorful. And if you don't eat all of the steaks, so maybe you get 2 hanger steaks or 2 flank steaks, marinate it, cook it, and then you can slice it, and it can be ready for lunch or a dish down the road. Maybe steak tacos or fajitas or a salad or maybe your kids like quesadillas and you want to get some healthy nutrients in there just other than cheese. I love having hanger and flank steak. You'll find in our freezer, always going to have either ground bison or ground, grass-fed beef. These are things you're making tacos with, you're making burgers, maybe spaghetti, but these are easy to find. I love bison. I also eat ground beef, but I try to mix it up. Boneless, skinless chicken breasts, boneless, skinless chicken thighs. These are things you can freeze, you can marinate, you can saute. Again, just having it available. If you look in the freezer and you don't have any meat, you're probably not going to think about it to thaw for the day. So having these items. And then I love the skin on with the bone thighs. So many easy recipes that you can bake that make delicious chicken dinners. From a seafood standpoint, maybe occasionally we're having shrimp, so you can buy, I think, some pretty high quality frozen shrimp. Maybe if you have access to fresh shrimp. But I don't always know when I'm going to have shrimp, so I don't really want to buy it and sit in the fridge. And then I don't really find too many wild-caught fish options that are affordable, that aren't farm-raised. So I like to go frozen wild-caught salmon because you're going to get higher quality. I don't think it necessarily tastes as good as the highest quality you'd get at a restaurant, but those are easy to do. They sell these little strip wild-caught salmon. My wife doesn't love salmon, so I can buy those. I can make it for myself or whoever wants it. I love a teriyaki salmon broiled in the oven over some rice. Great option. So let's go from that to some condiments that you want to have on hand. Mustard. So I love mustard. I love Dijon mustard. I love different varieties. So much flavor. You can put that on meat. You can put it on maybe a canned tuna, tuna salad, any different burgers. And if you don't like mustard, but it can be very flavorful. I always have organic ketchup, and you want to get high quality ketchup, in my opinion. It's a condiment. I love it, but I want to get higher quality than just a bunch of sugar ketchup. I love some of the newer ketchups out there. You got avocado mayo. Want to have avocado mayo. Balsamic vinegar. I loved aged balsamic vinegar in the pantry. Can go over so many different things. Maybe it's like a sauteed cherry tomatoes with feta or goat cheese and maybe some basil with some balsamic. These are some things you could throw together in 2 seconds and act like you're at a 5-star restaurant. Extra virgin olive oil is always in the house. Virgin coconut oil is always in the house. Virgin coconut oil is a healthy saturated fat, so good for digestion, skin, hair, nails, easy to cook with. It's healthy saturated fat. The key there is cold pressed virgin coconut oil versus a refined coconut oil. You got natural peanut butter. Always going to have natural peanut butter. I love crema, different kinds of variety. I always have organic jelly. My kids like peanut butter and jelly. I like peanut butter and jelly. There's some fun recipes you can make with like chicken salad. You get a baguette, you put a little bit of jelly on it. It's kind of like a fun recipe. Little cheese on top. You broil it. It's an open-faced sandwich. Bragg's amino acid. That's a healthier version of soy sauce. I always am going to have sea salt, ground pepper, and maybe you have garlic pepper or garlic powder, onion powder. These are some spices. You want to have these condiments available so that if you're looking for different ideas, you're not like, well, I wanted to make a burger, but I don't have any ketchup or whatever the recipe is. Now, this is something fairly recent that I find to be extremely convenient and fairly clean and healthy is organic basmati rice, and it's frozen. So it's in this frozen pack. You warm it up, and the kids love it. So instead of making maybe a more processed rice that's got a bunch of stuff in it, my kids like rice. Sometimes it takes a long time to make the rice. You got to soak the rice so it doesn't have all the starch. These are great options. Frozen Amy's dishes, they like the broccoli, macaroni and cheese. My middle daughter loves the macaroni and cheese. So having these in the freezer, when they go on sale, you buy a lot of them so that you have them available and they'll last forever in the freezer. Canned tuna, I always have canned tuna. Maybe feel like a tuna salad or making something with tuna. Even tuna noodle casserole, I have a very simple tuna noodle casserole, not maybe like your grandma with all the stuff added to it, but a simple one. Annie's mac and cheese, that's an upgraded than Kraft macaroni and cheese. And then I usually try to buy a healthier kid cereal, kind of just to give them some options. Getting them out the door in the morning is sometimes a struggle, and so making sure that they're at least getting something, and it's not something they're going to have at school that's Lucky Charms cereal. And then from cheese, I love cheese, but I try to not buy too much cheese. You got goat cheese. I always love to have goat cheese. Maybe a little Parmesan cheese for different recipes. And then, maybe sliced cheddar cheese. And I go organic always with my cheese. And then frozen fruit. So I like to make smoothies. So I'm always going to have frozen organic strawberries. Like I said, I freeze the blueberries. When the bananas go bad or going ripe, I try to freeze those. That's my go-to smoothie. My kids like almond milk, but they don't necessarily always want it in their cereal. So I buy organic whole milk, and I try to get as highest quality, sometimes even in a glass jar, because they don't consume a lot of it, but they like it, and so I try to go as highest quality in that. Now, if your kids are struggling with asthma or skin issues or some other things, maybe that's not something I try to eliminate, go to a plant-based. And then I buy unsweetened almond milk for myself and my wife, and my kids occasionally will put it in their cereal. And then I love pickles, so I'm always going to buy a high-quality pickle. I like I forget the brand, but there's a brand at Whole Foods that's just delicious. They're very light and clean, and I love pickles. Fermented foods, very good for digestion. Kimchi, it's a spicy sauerkraut, fermented sauerkraut. So many different flavors that can spice up literally can spice it up. Again, you can buy that fermented food. I like to have those on hand. So from a grains, I always have oatmeal. I like to buy farro. Farro is another grain. You can make these grain bowls with farro. My kids like the grain bowls. Cacao powder. So I like to put cacao powder in my smoothie and maybe some other items. There's teff. If you haven't had our teff recipe, it's delicious. Teff is a grain. It's the smallest grain. And then Brazil nuts, macadamia nuts, almonds. These are some nuts you have on hand. Some raisins that are just raisins. You don't want to get the raisins with the oil or the sugar. maybe some fun pasta. Maybe you're doing some real high quality fettuccine, or even sometimes I do a spinach pasta. My kids sometimes they sniff it out, whether you're making spaghetti or some type of dish. And then there's these organic ramen noodles. My kids like them, and I would very rarely going to feed my kids, the cheap ramen noodles, but these are much better ingredients, much higher quality, and you can just tell, and is a nice little option for them when they're looking for a lunch. I like Annie's tomato soup, and then they make organic cream of mushroom soup. I like to have that on hand, especially if I'm going to make like a meatloaf, or I talked about the tuna noodle casserole. Instead of the Campbell's soup, cream of mushroom soup, we try to buy the organic cream of mushroom soup, and then a high quality tomato sauce. So for me, what I'm trying to do, that's a go-to, whether you like to buy hummus, or there's so many different things you can buy. This is my go-to. Got to have this in the pantry, in the refrigerator, because my 5 go-to meals that I can make usually on any night: tacos, fajitas, spaghetti, bison burger. Maybe you're like, well, I don't want a bun. Well, you could use lettuce, or a higher quality bun like a Rudy's or a sprouted bun. And then I like to make soup, so chicken noodle soup or chicken and rice soup, or even very simple soups where you're just maybe making like a butternut squash. You cook it in the oven, you put it in your Vitamix or your blender, and you blend it up and can make some really delicious soups. And then steak salad. I really like to have a steak salad once or twice a week, especially in the summer. It's easy. You buy these bags, or you put a salad together and you marinate a steak, and next thing you know, you got a very delicious restaurant quality salad. The kids usually will eat that, get a little vegetable, a little green in their diet. And then these grain bowls are so fun. And I didn't mention that eggs are impossible to get, but usually going to have free range, pasture raised eggs. And you can make hard boiled eggs. You can make soft boiled eggs. So I make these grain bowls. So you make the farro, you make it ahead of time. So that's going to be your base. And then maybe you marinate some chicken or steak, maybe put the kimchi on it, maybe you put some type of peppers. Goat cheese is phenomenal in it. You can even use some of these microgreens kind of to spice it up. The kimchi, I think, is the kind of like the secret ingredient. And then maybe like a tahini dressing, so easy to make. Raw honey, tahini, maybe some other things in there to make it and you drizzle that over the grain bowl. So fun, so easy. Obviously, there's a lot of steps, but you can make all these things ahead of time, consume it cold, and it's a go-to. And I do always like to have raw honey. So many different options with the raw honey. So why did I do this podcast today? Because I see people in the grocery store, they many times don't have a plan, or they're just buying what they've always bought. The cereals, the crackers, the chips. And I love chips, and I didn't mention chips, but if I'm going to buy chips, I'm going to buy maybe some avocado oil, higher quality. Sieta chips are one of my newer favorite chips, but if I buy chips, I'm going to eat the chips. And so I think very, specifically, what do I want to eat? How do I want to eat? What foods do I need to have in the pantry? Because if we just buy food and it's the unhealthy food and it's staring us right in the face, that's what we're going to eat. And food is very powerful and it's very habitual. And so if you've been eating the same breakfast that's not quite the healthy breakfast you should have, we got to start finding some items that we can make, that we look forward to, that are actually going to fuel the body. And so as you're leaving here, thinking about your grocery list, and you can copy this, you can tweak it. In many of our books, you'll see a grocery list item or list. But I want you to start with breakfast. You're going to have a smoothie. You're going to have oatmeal on the run. Maybe you're going to make eggs. Maybe you have some other avocado toast. Maybe you've been making sourdough. Sourdough is becoming more popular, pretty easy to make. My mom and sister perfected it. My mom even buys these, they look like bakery bag. So her bread is in this bag that looks like she bought it, but she made it. But breakfast is really what you want to make sure. Do you have an option for breakfast that's easy, repeatable, and you look forward to? That should be on the grocery list. Do you have snacks, fruit, nuts, seeds? Maybe you have a food bar. That's why we came out with our food bar. It's hard to find them, but they do exist. But snacks are important throughout your day, at work, from meeting to meeting, in the car, your kids' sports. What are they going to eat after school, right before practice? Snacks are important. What do we have on hand? If you have gummy bears and candy, and this is what the kids are going to eat. And so we want to be prepared to have items that they actually want, that you feel good feeding them. And then dinner. We need to have 5 go-to meals. Maybe have a couple meals that are comfort food that you love to eat, but 5 go-to meals that you can make at any time, that you feel good about, that are easy to make, don't take a lot of energy. Maybe even teaching your kids and your family to make these if you're not home. Again, like I said, my go-tos are tacos, fajitas, spaghetti. I even like to take, like I said, I buy that organic basmati rice. You heat that up, maybe make any dish. You put that over that. Next thing you know, you got a pretty simple, easy. Maybe you're making broccoli or broccolini in the oven. Again, this is the grocery list. This is my go-to grocery list. Doesn't mean it's right. This is what again, sometimes I'm too close and been doing it for so long it seems easy. It's not easy, but if you make it simple, if you can repeat it, if you have this down, you can walk into any grocery store, find these items, and away you go. I didn't talk about bread. You can buy sprouted bread, multigrain bread, whole wheat bread, maybe making sourdough. Bread's something that you can either eat if you want or not eat. And if you want to eat it, make it better. But again, what we put in our body does matter, and it begins with how we're shopping. So this is your grocery list. We'll see you again next time.